Good evening, everyone. Very nice to see you tonight on our live here. And today we've got an action-packed live for you. We've got loads to cram in. So we're going to have a quick look at files within SharePoint team sites. And we're also going to have a quick look, as it was a good place to segue into OneDrive, and we've had some requests asking us how kind of OneDrive fits into the whole scenario with SharePoint. So we thought we'd just have a quick look at OneDrive as well. So welcome to all of you that are here on the live tonight, and welcome to all of you as well that are watching on the recording. I'm going to get straight into it because we haven't got much time to lose, and I want to get as much information over to you in as short a time as possible this evening. So I'm going to just share my screen with you. So bear with me 1 second. So I shall share that. So here we go. So here is our SharePoint team site that we were looking at yesterday and the day before. So we'll build on what we've already seen. So you saw that we created this SharePoint team site, and I mentioned this was mainly to share and to collaborate within internal groups. They may be smaller groups, they could be slightly larger groups, but there'll be something like a department or something along those lines that you'll be kind of communicating with on a regular basis, where everyone needs to be able to mainly update and collaborate on files, on messages, for example. So if we have a look down here, we'll see that we have our documents down here. So I'm going to click on See All there, and that will take us into what's known as a document library. So a document library is within a SharePoint team site. We can have as many document libraries as we'd like within that team site to a certain extent, I think. So here you can see that we have our documents. They're split into folders that we created as part of the template that we used the other night. So we've already got these folders set up, so this is great. So I can show you kind of the structure, etc., straight away of these. So we've had these folders created for us. Now we can go into one of these folders, for example, and we can, for example, create a new file or folder. So we can create a Word document in here. This will open up a Word document for us straight away. Now, I haven't got much imagination, so I'm just going to put down the first thing that comes into my head. You can see here on the top left-hand side that the document has been saved. We're working online, so our documents are saved automatically. Okay, and then if I go back into the annual reports folder, we should see there we go. So just needed to refresh the page there. So we have our document in here that we've just created. Okay, so folders, documents, so we can start to see a structure kind of appearing of stuff that we used to maybe be able to do and we're more kind of familiar with doing on maybe our local computer or within a server, for example. So what I'm going to show you now is, now that this document is there and online, we can start to work with this, and we can also do things like we could share this document. So here is a sharing link there. So I can change this to whoever I would like. So I can put it to specific people, for example. I can change some settings on here. So I can allow people to edit this document, or I can maybe decide that I don't want to allow people to edit that document. I can even block them from downloading it. So if it's a sensitive document, for example, that you just want someone to have a quick look at to review, then you may want to even block them from being able to download that file. So we'll apply those settings, and I'm going to just send this to the first person I can think of. There we go. And we can send this either internally or externally. We can share. And as you can see, SharePoint will now give me a message to say this person is outside of your organization, because I'm sharing that with an external email address that I have within here. So it gives you excuse me, a summary there of what people can do with that link. So we can even copy the link as well, and we can send that, for example, to them via email. So I can send that link. There we go. Now that file is shared with that external party, so we can share them within our groups. We can share them to people that are outside of the group that have access to this site also, but we can also share them with people who are external to our organization, depending on the configuration of the Microsoft 365 tenant. So if you find that you can't do that, then it might be a setting on your Microsoft 365 tenant. Okay, so there's the creation of folder, file, and then now we've just shown how we can share that file. So that's very useful because people can then come and work on the same version of the file, email flying around, and versions of files kind of wondering which one is final version 1 or final version 1, for example. So it just takes away from some of that kind of not knowing which version of the file you're working on, because everyone is working on the same linked file. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you here, and which is very useful in terms of working with SharePoint files from your local computer, if you're more familiar with that aspect, or you'd prefer to use, for example, the desktop files. So up here at the top, we have this button which says sync. So I'm going to click on the sync button. In fact, I'm just going to go up one level. So I'm going to go from the annual reports folder. I'm going to go to documents here, and I'm going to sync. So the sync button here, I'm going to sync at this level. So it will say we're syncing your files. Okay, we'll allow it to, it will ask to open OneDrive. So this is an interesting thing. SharePoint uses the OneDrive app to synchronize its folders to a local PC. So we'll open that and we'll close here. Okay, now I'm going to take a look here. Okay, there we go. So that took a few seconds, but now you can see I've got a notification here on the bottom right hand side saying that I'm now syncing my live test document. So down here at the right hand side, and you can just see that there. Okay, there we go. So if I now look in my file explorer, what you'll see is that this icon here has appeared. So this is my company name. And if I open this up, then you'll see that I have that folder in there. So live test documents, and thankfully it has all of these folders from the SharePoint document library. So now I can work on these on my computer, and it means that they they are using this OneDrive client on the local computer in order to synchronize them between the computer and the SharePoint site. So the best way I can show you this is if I now open up the annual reports folder and open up this document. I told you there was lots to get through tonight, so I'm going to show you this, and then we'll move on to the OneDrive afterwards to give you a very quick taste of the OneDrive app as well. So we can see here that this is exactly the same file as I added in my really interesting text into earlier on. So we've just got that text in there called testing. So I'll just type that again. So you can see here up at the top that our document is saving there. So we'll just save that. There we go. So it does generally auto save. I've just tried to buy ourselves some seconds there. So I'm going to close that file down. I'm going to go back into my online SharePoint site, open up the document, and with any luck, there we go. So you can see I didn't really have to do anything to make sure that the online version was in sync with the version on my computer, because the OneDrive client has taken care of all of that, and it's synchronized both of those files together. Okay, so we've already been through SharePoint site, and then document library, and then folders, files, sharing files, And now we've just shown you how to synchronize those files to a local device using the OneDrive client, and how you can then kind of work with those files on your computer and on SharePoint. I'm just going to, okay, there we go. So I'm just going to close that down. Okay, so the next segue here really is into OneDrive. So what we can also do is within this SharePoint site, or within this document library, I can add a shortcut to my OneDrive. So it will tell me that there's a shortcut now that's been added to OneDrive. So just ignore this shortcut synchronization for a second. So as with anything in Office 365, Microsoft 365, if you want to get anywhere easily, then look for your waffle here at the top left-hand side, and we'll head on into the OneDrive. So here we are now in our test users OneDrive. So we've got quite a few files in here. So you'll see that we also have then quick access into some of the sites that we've been using before. So it tries to kind of marry up both the OneDrive and the SharePoint. So one thing immediately that we can notice here is that the shortcut that we added to our shared documents within the other site has turned up here. So you can see here, shared documents, and it was done a few seconds ago. There we go. And maybe now would be a good time just to kind of quickly go over. So we've moved from SharePoint, which by its name suggests that you share documents within a group, and we've already talked about that, to a OneDrive, which is much more personal. It's your personal space within the Microsoft 365 environment to store your files. I like to use it to kind of store files which you're kind of initially working on, and you need to kind of get them to a certain state before you're ready to share them with people. Or they may be things like development plans, which you might just want to share with your kind of supervisor or something along those lines. So they're much more personal. OneDrive is not designed to be used to be shared. Again, on our local computer, we can see that OneDrive here is also synchronized. So that's just by signing into the OneDrive client. And then just finally, you'll see that OneDrive is very similar to SharePoint, because you can see it's folders, files, and we have very much the same kind of icons. And sharing, for example, looks very similar to SharePoint within OneDrive as well. And the options that we get are very similar. Okay, now that's all we have time for, unfortunately, today. That was, like I said in the description, a whistle-stop tour of Microsoft SharePoint team site files, and then a segue then off into the OneDrive, and just to show you quickly some of the kind of file kind of actions within the OneDrive there, and how that's also synchronized down to the local computer. Okay, so just quickly again, kind of remind you that on our website, please get in touch if you'd like to kind of stay, if you'd like us to send you more info like these, when we have tips, etc. And we'll keep you up to date when we're doing things like this 30 days, 30 tips. And yeah, hopefully you can get some use out of, some of the things that we're doing. There's a link there also to our academy, where we have our Microsoft Teams Made Easy course. So go and have a look at that. And yeah, we'll see you again tomorrow for the next installment of 30 days, 30 Microsoft 365 tips. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. Okay, good evening. Bye.